U.S. military drones possess several advanced capabilities that make cartel UAVs appear like toys in comparison. At first glance, both are drones, unmanned aircraft buzzing through the sky. But one is a $20,000 commercial quadcopter modified with duct tape and hand-loaded explosives. The other is a multi-million-dollar weapons platform capable of flying across continents, striking with surgical precision, and feeding a stream of intelligence into command centers half a world away. The difference is not just one of scale, it is a difference in entire eras of warfare. And for cartels attempting to leverage drones as a weapon of intimidation, the comparison is devastating. Every advantage they think they hold is systematically erased by US technology that turns their UAVs into little more than fragile toys against the machinery of modern battle. The first and most glaring disparity is endurance. Cartel UAVs, no matter how they are modified, are limited by battery life and consumer-grade construction. They hover for 20, maybe 30 minutes before returning or crashing. Their operators remain within a few kilometers, often hiding in safe houses near the border, watching shaky video feeds on tablets. In contrast, the MQ-9 Reaper can fly for 27 hours straight. That means it can launch from a base hundreds of miles away, climb to altitudes cartels can't even see, and loiter over an area for an entire day without interruption. Through satellite control links, a crew in Nevada can command its every move while relaying intelligence to Border Patrol agents in Texas or Navy ships off Mexico's Pacific coast. While cartel pilots fidget with consumer remotes, a Reaper circles high above, invisible, unrelenting, its operators watching every truck that leaves a compound, every figure that steps into a field. Endurance isn't just about fuel, it's about presence, and the Reaper's persistence makes cartel drones feel fleeting and irrelevant. Range deepens the divide. Cartel drones are tethered by line-of-sight radio frequencies or short-range boosters. A hill, a building, or the curve of the terrain can block their signal. US drones, however, are connected by satellites, meaning they can operate across entire continents with no meaningful blind spots. A Reaper can stalk targets across multiple borders, unaffected by geography. For a cartel engineer, the idea of global reach is unthinkable. Their creations are trapped in small patches of airspace. US drones roam the Earth. Payload capacity is another chasm cartels cannot bridge. Their drones carry a few pounds at most, taped on cameras, bags of meth, crude grenades, or small improvised explosive devices.
Before we get to that, I need your help. I'm trying to hit 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and I need your help. So I would really appreciate it if you could subscribe and help me out.
These loads are unreliable, often damaging the drone itself, and limited in destructive potential. By contrast, US drones like the Reaper are designed to haul nearly 1,700 kilograms, thousands of pounds of weaponry and advanced systems. That capacity translates into Hellfire missiles, precision-guided bombs, synthetic aperture radars, electronic warfare pods, and long-range sensor arrays. A single US drone can carry enough firepower to destroy armored convoys, fortified safe houses, or drug labs buried deep in remote terrain. While cartel drones struggle to drop soda can-sized explosives, a Reaper holds the destructive capacity of an attack helicopter, combined with sensors that would shame entire air forces. The imbalance is not incremental, it is absolute. Sensors are where the humiliation becomes undeniable. Cartel UAVs rely on off-the-shelf GoPro-style cameras, transmitting shaky 1080p video streams. At best, they can scout rival safe houses or observe military patrols. But these cameras are useless in heavy rain, fog, or darkness. By contrast, US drones are flying surveillance suites. Multispectral imaging allows them to cut through weather, detect heat signatures, and map terrain in real time. Synthetic aperture radar penetrates clouds and foliage, exposing hidden camps. Infrared reveals smugglers hiking at night, their footsteps glowing like embers against the cold earth. Laser designators mark vehicles with invisible beams, guiding precision munitions to within feet of their targets. Cartel engineers can strap on a zoom lens, but they cannot replicate radar that sees through storms or infrared that exposes men in pitch-black darkness. Their drones are children's toys compared to the all-seeing eyes mounted on U.S. craft. The difference in strike capability is equally devastating. Cartel drones can drop small explosives, often inaccurate and unreliable. Their attacks create panic, but rarely achieve military results. U.S. drones, however, integrate into full-spectrum command and control networks. When a Reaper is ordered to strike, it can launch a precision-guided Hellfire missile from miles away, obliterating a moving vehicle with an accuracy measured in inches. Cartel convoys, armored trucks, and even hidden jungle labs are vulnerable. And unlike Cartel UAVs, which must be flown manually and often with great risk to their operators nearby, U.S. drones operate at vast distances, eliminating targets while their controllers sit safely on another continent. For the cartels, the contrast is existential. Their drones terrorize neighborhoods. U.S. drones decide battles. Autonomy and networked operations further widen the chasm. Cartel drones depend on live piloting by nervous operators who are constantly exposed to capture or detection. U.S. drones fly pre-programmed paths, track targets automatically, and even reroute themselves in emergencies. More importantly, they share intelligence across entire battle networks. What a drone sees can instantly be shared with patrols on the ground, Navy ships offshore, or satellites overhead. This creates a seamless web of surveillance and strike potential. Cartel UAVs, by contrast, are isolated devices, unable to integrate into any broader picture. Their operators may watch a rival's warehouse, but they cannot share live feeds to multiple forces or coordinate across domains. In the age of networked warfare, cartels remain trapped in isolation. Electronic warfare underscores how fragile cartel UAVs really are. With pulsar jammers and advanced counter-drone systems, U.S. forces can neutralize cartel drones before they achieve anything. A swarm of modified quadcopters heading toward a border patrol unit can be intercepted mid-air, their signals scrambled, their rotors cut off by directed counter-drones. Cartel UAVs fall helplessly from the sky, rendered useless by invisible beams of energy. Meanwhile, U.S. drones themselves are hardened against such interference, capable of resisting jamming and maintaining control through encrypted links. The effect is psychological as much as tactical. Cartel engineers watch their devices fail, vanish, or crash without explanation, while U.S. drones glide overhead, untouchable. The result is not merely technical superiority, it is the complete delegitimization of cartel innovation. Cartels pride themselves on improvisation. They weld armor onto trucks, dig elaborate tunnels, and hack commercial technology to suit their needs. Against corrupt local police or poorly equipped militaries, this ingenuity makes them formidable. But against U.S. drones, their improvisation looks like child's play. A quadcopter dropping grenades may terrorize a village, but it cannot contest a drone capable of tracking entire regions, striking convoys with missiles, and surviving in contested airspace for over a day at a time.
Before we get to that, I need your help. I'm trying to hit 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and I need your help. So I would really appreciate it if you could subscribe and help me out.
Cartel engineers understand engines, batteries, and cameras, but they cannot comprehend synthetic aperture radar, satellite relays, or autonomous targeting algorithms. Their toys may frighten civilians, but they are utterly eclipsed in any confrontation with U.S. platforms. This disparity is not just technical, it is emotional. For cartel operators, drones once symbolized empowerment, the ability to surveil, intimidate, and attack from the air. But as U.S. drones dominate the skies, that empowerment flips into vulnerability. Every time a cartel launches a drone, they risk exposure. Every time they assemble an explosive payload, they know a Reaper could be circling unseen above them. Their weapons of the future suddenly feel like fragile gadgets, while their enemies wield machines from another dimension. That realization eats away at morale. It turns confidence into paranoia. Experts have pointed out this dynamic repeatedly. Defense analysts note that while cartels adapt quickly with commercial technology, the technological gulf is unbridgeable when compared to state-level systems. Journalists at the border describe sheriffs and police suddenly backed by military drones, watching smuggling routes in real time, while cartel UAVs are jammed out of the sky. Reports emphasize that the US is not just intercepting cartel drones, it is redefining the battlefield to make those drones irrelevant. The more cartels try to escalate, the more glaring the gap becomes. A cartel drone pilot grips his controller tightly, eyes fixed on a grainy video feed. The target seems clear, the mission simple: observe, track, maybe even harass US Border Patrol units. But within seconds, the feed begins to distort, the drone veers off course, and before the operator can react, the craft drops from the sky. He thinks it was a technical malfunction, maybe a mistake in handling. In reality, he has just been outmatched by layers of technology and tactics he doesn't even know exist. This is the brutal reality. Cartel drone pilots often misinterpret US drone behavior, and that misunderstanding leads to their swift defeat. The first reason lies in tactical awareness, or more accurately, the lack of it. Cartel operators rarely receive formal training in aerial tactics. They know how to fly commercially available drones, how to attach payloads, and how to follow basic GPS routes. But they don't know the playbook of US military drones. They don't understand why a Predator maintains certain altitudes, why a Reaper suddenly shifts course, or why a smaller tactical drone seems to hover in ways that don't make sense. To them, it looks random or mechanical. In reality, those drones are following complex protocols designed by military strategists with decades of experience. This gap in understanding is what causes pilots to underestimate distances, misread surveillance patterns, or assume they're undetected when, in truth, they're already locked in a targeting cycle. That ignorance connects directly to the second problem: technological disparity. US drones are not hobbyist machines. They're equipped with sensor suites that scan in every direction simultaneously: infrared, radar, optical, electronic. They link to satellites that update positions in real time across entire regions. A US drone operator can see beyond hills, track heat signatures, and predict paths before a cartel drone even completes a turn. Meanwhile, cartel drones rely on simple video feeds or line-of-sight controls that limit their view to what the onboard camera captures. If fog rolls in, if terrain blocks the signal, or if jamming cuts the link, cartel pilots are flying blind. Against a system that perceives the entire battle space, they are like boxers throwing punches in the dark. That leads to the third factor: counter-UAV systems. This is where cartel operators often find themselves completely out of their depth. US forces deploy layered counter-drone defenses, radar systems that detect small signatures, electronic tools that jam communication links, and even kinetic options like interceptor drones or high-energy lasers. The cartel pilot might think he's maneuvering cleverly, circling around or diving low. In reality, his every move is tracked, his signal profile analyzed, and the decision to neutralize his drone is made long before he realizes something is wrong. The craft falls from the sky, and he is left with confusion, frustration, and fear. He doesn't know how it was countered, only that it was effortless and unstoppable. The fourth reason is speed of response. Cartel drones are controlled manually, every adjustment requiring human reaction time. US drones, by contrast, integrate autonomous functions. Algorithms process threats in fractions of a second, adjusting flight paths, targeting sensors, and countermeasures with no delay. A cartel pilot may try to exploit a perceived opening, closing in on a convoy or attempting to shadow a US craft, but by the time he reacts, the drone has already shifted, evaded, or responded. The mismatch in tempo makes cartel mistakes inevitable. It feels to them as though the US drones anticipate moves, when in truth, autonomy is simply faster than human reflexes. Then comes deception and electronic warfare, perhaps the most disorienting element. US systems can flood the electromagnetic spectrum with false signals, spoof GPS coordinates, or subtly disrupt controls. To a cartel pilot, this interference doesn't look like warfare. It looks like bad luck. He thinks the wind pushed his drone off course, that his batteries failed prematurely, that his camera suddenly glitched. He misreads electronic manipulation as natural error, never realizing he was lured, blinded, and neutralized deliberately. This misinterpretation ensures that mistakes compound. Pilots continue flying into traps, convinced they're dealing with technical issues rather than an invisible opponent rewriting the rules mid-flight. Finally, the experience gap seals the outcome. Many cartel pilots are self-taught, improvising from tutorials or borrowed tactics from foreign conflicts. Some even travel to war zones like Ukraine to learn FPV techniques, but exposure does not equal mastery. By contrast, US drone programs are staffed by trained personnel who log thousands of flight hours under combat conditions. They understand aerial psychology, know how to bait adversaries, and apply disciplined, layered strategy. Every encounter between the two is asymmetric. One side learning through trial and error, the other executing doctrine refined over decades. This imbalance guarantees that cartel drone operations remain reactive, fragile, and prone to catastrophic failure. The drones are already in the air, thousands of them, launched by cartels across the US-Mexico border, buzzing over deserts and river crossings, their operators hoping the small machines can tilt the balance of power. But reality cuts through that illusion. Every one of those cartel drones, improvised and fragile, flies into a battle space dominated by the overwhelming technological advantage of the United States. The gap isn't subtle, it's stark, exposed in field incidents that reveal how lopsided this contest really is. In the first category of clashes, detection, and interdiction at borders, the numbers themselves are startling. Homeland Security officials have reported more than 27,000 cartel drone flights within just 6 months of 2024 along the southern border. On the surface, that figure suggests strength. Thousands of flights, thousands of attempts to outmaneuver US surveillance. Yet the real story is in what happened to those flights. Cartel operators leaned heavily on night missions, counting on darkness to conceal their smuggling scouts and surveillance efforts. But US surveillance no longer depends on human eyesight. Advanced radar systems, infrared sensors, and layered detection arrays expose these drones with ruthless efficiency. The result is that sheer quantity does not equate to effectiveness. For every drone that crosses, a signature is recorded, tracked, and logged. Limited battery life, short range, and lack of stealth ensure that these cartel machines are vulnerable to being intercepted or disrupted. It is a classic case of brute force versus precision, and precision wins. A second arena where this disparity is impossible to ignore is in the weaponization of drones. Cartels have escalated their use of drones to deliver improvised explosive devices in internal conflicts across Mexico. Videos circulate of crude explosives strapped to quadcopters dropped on rival factions, leaving shock and terror behind. The image is chilling, a new layer of cartel brutality that looks, at first glance, like modern warfare. But the contrast with US countermeasures is just as stark. American forces are not caught off guard by these developments. Instead, they have already fielded counter-UAV technologies designed to jam, hack, or disable hostile drones before they reach a target. These include electronic warfare systems, radar-linked disruptors, and even directed energy prototypes. Where cartel drones drop crude bombs in chaotic street battles, US drones and their defenses represent discipline, integration, and technological maturity. The gap is not only in capability, but in reliability. For cartels, every explosive drone sortie is a gamble. For US forces, counter-drone responses are a systematized layer of defense. The stakes rise further when cartel drones intrude on US military infrastructure. Hundreds of incursions have been recorded near military bases, forcing agencies like NORAD and NORTHCOM to confront the reality that even unsophisticated drones can pose a persistent nuisance. At first, the volume seems threatening. Hundreds of incursions sound like a swarm campaign. But the Pentagon's response reveals the imbalance. U.S. forces have expressed frustration at regulatory constraints and the bureaucratic pace of implementing new counter-drone defenses, not at the raw capability of the drones themselves. In other words, the challenge lies in policy, not technology. When engagement is authorized, the superiority of U.S. systems becomes clear. Cartel drones are small, noisy, and vulnerable, while American drones carry sophisticated surveillance packages, advanced communications, and, if required, precision strike capabilities. Cartel incursions are like gnats at the edge of a campfire, irritating, but never equal to the flames. Local law enforcement adds another layer to this imbalance, deploying AI-enhanced drones to track smuggling activity. In Arizona and Texas, sheriff's departments have fielded thermal imaging drones equipped with artificial intelligence that can scan landscapes for hours, detect human heat signatures, and guide ground units to precise GPS coordinates. These are not military assets but civilian law enforcement tools, and yet they operate at a level far beyond cartel drones. The contrast could not be sharper. U.S. police forces use drones with automated target recognition, extended endurance, and integrated communication systems. Cartels, by comparison, still rely on manually operated quadcopters with basic cameras and limited payloads. Even at the local level, the technology gap yawns wide. Every time a sheriff's drone guides a patrol to intercept smugglers, it reinforces the message. Even American county-level technology outpaces cartel improvisation. Then there are the human failures, the missteps by cartel drone pilots themselves. Operating drones effectively under pressure is not as simple as it appears. Incidents have already occurred where cartel operators underestimated U.S. detection systems or failed to recognize when their signals were being jammed. They attempted to fly routes they thought were hidden, only to find their drones intercepted within minutes. In some cases, drones were hijacked mid-flight by electronic warfare techniques, stripped from cartel control, and forced down. These operational errors expose another layer of disparity: training. U.S. drone pilots undergo rigorous instruction, simulations, and live operational practice. Cartel pilots are often self-taught, using trial and error. And every mistake they make, every crash or interception, deepens the divide between what they attempt and what they face. The final conclusion is clear and stark. Cartel drone programs symbolize ambition, but ambition without capability is theater. They showcase intent, but fail in execution. They may score occasional tactical moments, but they collapse against the structural advantages of the United States. Former U.S. intelligence officers, drawing from direct encounters, emphasize that futility is not just a judgment, it is a verdict. The programs cannot scale, cannot evolve meaningfully, and cannot alter the balance of power. They are destined to remain futile, not because cartels lack willpower, but because technology, resources, and adaptation are overwhelmingly stacked against them. In the end, every drone that falls short of its mission, every intercepted signal, every rapid U.S. countermeasure reinforces the same story. Cartel drone warfare is a dead end. The dream of using drones as equalizers against a superior adversary is shattered by reality. Futility is not just an opinion, it is the lived outcome of every attempt cartels have made to challenge U.S. dominance through the air. That is why former intelligence officers use the word so bluntly. They have seen the failures up close, measured the imbalance, and concluded without hesitation: cartel drones are not the future. They are already defeated.